It's a really beautiful sunny evening here in Galway. I'm Roisin Cure, you're very welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to show you how I draw this little sketch portrait of my daughter Livy. Just putting on the magnetic clips, keep my pages down. It's really sunny, so I hope the blue of the paper doesn't put you off at all. Okay, I'm starting with my Fude pen, and I started in black ink on the reverse of the nib to keep the line nice and fine, because at the beginning stages of a drawing in pen, well, I'm often not that confident, especially if I'm quite close to my subject and I can see them very well. So these little skinny lines, they really help you find your confident place. And once you do that, then you can turn the nib around and use a heavier line. Now at this point I decided I didn't like the black, and I decided to go on to brown, document ink brown. And it's important to say that at this stage, at the very beginning, there's loads of things you're going to see, well I do anyway, that are completely wrong. But you make a judgment, can I fix it? And if you can, you just keep going. And I can see that Livy's head is far too small, but that's absolutely fine because I can make it bigger in that dark brown ink. And the hair's going to be painted darker anyway, so I should get away with it. It's important to be patient and not to freak out and say, I've ruined it, when you know that you're perfectly able to fix it in a little bit at your own time. Making the head a bit more sensible in size. And you can see the lens of the glasses on the right hand side is a little bit squashed. That's just because it's seen at a slight angle. And this ink, by the way, is waterproof and clog proof, so it's great for painting on top of with watercolour. The line won't budge at all. Still feeling my way with this pen. To be honest, I don't think I ever stopped feeling my way with the pen throughout the whole sketch, but it's quite a nice effect, all those scratchy lines, and you can hear the scratch of the nib as I get through the drawing. All the time I'm looking for shadows, really dark shadows, so that I can build up a feeling of, well, I suppose sunshine anyway, but also the shadows help you get that feeling of three-dimensionality. It's worth pointing out, if you say to yourself, I can't draw people, which is something I hear a lot, try to remember that it's all down to the same thing: observation. Good observation. It's one thing to see clearly what you're doing, and it can be quite another thing to draw it as well as you see it. So I'm making tons of mistakes here with my line of Livy's arm. But once again, because I'm just using the skinny side of the nib, you can see the nib is flipped around. It means that even if you make a drastic mistake, you can more or less get rid of it. Well, not get rid of it exactly, but once you put all the other values and colours in, those little fine line mistakes, they won't really be noticed. They'll be lost in a sea of plenty of other fine line mistakes. I prefer to use ink directly. I prefer not to go in with pencil first. I like the deliberate line of an ink pen. More shadows under the leg there. Luckily the sun was very strong, so the shadows were very dark, and that makes my life a lot easier, really. Anything I can see is going to be painted darker. I give myself permission to darken up with a pen. Making sure that the legs of the chair are parallel to each other, making sure they continue through whatever shape they intersect with. I suppose I'm constantly glancing from one part of the figure to another, just to make sure that I haven't done anything drastically crazy. Time to add some paint, mixing up a light skin tone and some hair. Not even being very careful with the colours I'm choosing. I'm just going for roughly the right colours. And of course, as always, it's the values that make all the difference. The sunglasses are much easier than you might think. They tend to be a lot darker on the top of the lens than on the bottom. And that's not that difficult to capture in watercolour. Even when I darkened the colour overall in the lenses, it worked well, but especially when I added pen at the end. Now, the shadow of the arm of the glasses on the face is normally very dark, and I really should have gone in a lot darker at the beginning. But you can always go darker, and indeed I did a little later on in the sketch. Looking carefully for shadows that I can see. There's always going to be one or two that you miss. I tend to leave areas white if they're in strong sunlight. If you're enjoying the video, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more of what I do, don't forget to subscribe. And now is a good time. Looking for any dark patches on the cushion of the lounger and those very, very dark patches behind the body. You can see I've scribbled in the shadows cast by the arm of the chair on Liv's body. And it's just to build up the overall three-dimensionality of it. And of course I did add some colour to those a little bit later. Well, there's a person under the chair, and it's Reuben. So I'm drawing his fur, which I'm very used to doing, by just making a series of little dashes with my pen, because he's what we call a rough Jack Russell. And a rough Jack Russell has got beautiful long fur. Using a dark, I think it's a Payne's Grey Burnt Umber mix for the shadows. The more shadows you add and the darker you make them, the sunnier your scene will appear. Making the grass extra dark because it's in shadow at the back. Now, the one thing I didn't do with this sketch that I'm slightly annoyed I didn't do was paint in the grass around Liv's chair, and that would allow me to fill it in around the bits and pieces of the sun lounger, but I can always come back to it later. There's little Reuben under the seat. He likes to go in there for the shade. Using my pen to deepen up some of the areas that I think could do with a little bit more definition. Still keeping my eye out for small areas of shadow that I might have missed. This is the bit where I darken the arm, the shadow of the arm of the glasses. It makes the face look a bit sunnier. There we go, pretty much done. Here's my studio in the early morning on a beautiful day in May. So I hope you've enjoyed that little demo of a sketch portrait of my youngest, Liv, and I guess a little bit of Reuben as well into the mix. And I'll see you next time. Happy sketching.